Dear friends, students and learners, I am Dr. Shashank Shrivastava from the School of Engineering and Technology, Indira Gandhi National Open University. So now in this session I am bringing to you the last unit of your material science course, which is entitled as Wear, Tribology, Surface Treatment and Coatings. And today in this session we will discuss about primarily wear. So before going into the concept of the wear, let me give to you the objectives of this particular unit, and these objectives are for the whole unit and not for this particular session only. So certain objectives, like first of all you will be able to understand the concept of wear, then you will be able to comprehend the term tribology, and you shall be able to distinguish between different types of friction, and you will be able to distinguish between different type of lubricants, mechanism of lubricants, and understand the properties of lubricants. You will also understand the different types of surface treatments, and you shall be able to define the term coating, types of coatings, and also know how to apply these coatings. So a little bit of introduction about the wear phenomena. So their surface condition and surface deterioration with use shall determine the quality of most metal products. So as we used a certain kind of material, what kind of condition it retains or what kind of deterioration is taking place determines the quality of our products. Surface deterioration is also important in engineering practice, as it is often the major factor limiting the life and the performance of machine components. If you can recall, in fatigue also section we also read that fatigue happens or the fatigue crack happens mainly because of the surface cracks. So this surface is that much important. So surface deterioration is an important thing. The displacement and detachment of metallic particles from a metallic surface may be caused by contact with. How this is taking place? Like a certain portion of the metal is getting detached from its main specimen. So the first point is that another metal or adhesive or metallic wearing rubbing is there, so it can remove it. Then metallic or a non-metallic abrasive is coming in contact with that particular specimen, abrasion is taking place, or moving liquids or gases may be causing erosion, like soil erosion is there. So similarly metal erosion. Erosion is usually accompanied by some form of corrosion as well. So corrosion, after erosion takes place, the main material has gone up from the top portion, and if it comes in contact with a chemical or if suppose moisture, then corrosion or rust takes place. The above three types of wears actually may be further subdivided into wear under rolling friction or sliding friction. So friction also plays a certain role, and further according to whether lubrication can or cannot be used. So according to lubrication also it can be subdivided, the three types of wears which I discussed with you right now. So mostly it is seen that abrasive and adhesive type of wear occurs. Each form of wear is affected by a variety of conditions, which includes the environment, the type of loading, relative speeds of the mating parts, lubricants which we are using, the temperature at which we are working, hardness of the surface, surface finish, presence of foreign particles, and composition and compatibility of the mating parts involved. So that much number of factors are there which can influence the wear. Since in most machinery applications wear can rarely be avoided, we know that ultimately everything has to wear out. Our bodies also wear out. So it is like that in this world, that things wear out, and this can rarely be avoided completely, even if we are using the best of lubrication. And it is common practice then to use a hard metal. To avoid this or to achieve the best possible result of minimum wear, we use a hard metal and a relatively soft core together. The soft material is used as a bearing for the part which is most economical to replace. So after knowing about the wear in some crude term, we shall now read the definition of this. So wear may be defined as unintentional deterioration resulting from use or environment. Unintentional meaning you didn't try to break it intentionally. The specimen you didn't try to break it. It was not your intention to break it. But even then it is wearing out or failing. So that's why the unintentional term is there. Unintentional deterioration. It may be considered essentially a surface phenomena. Again, you can see it's a surface phenomena. Wear is one of the most destructive influences to which metals are exposed, and thus prevention of wear cannot be avoided. So this is the very important destructive influence that a metal has to face, and we have to be careful about it. So what is the wear mechanism then? We read earlier there are mainly two types, adhesive and abrasive. So in adhesive wear, like what examples are like scoring, galling, seizing, scuffing, and all these tiny produce friction by mechanical interference. So there may be very small tiny projections on the surface. These cause the mechanical interference with the relative motion of contacting surfaces, thus increasing resistance to further movement. So if some other surface is coming on the top of this one, and these protrusions are causing some resistance to the motion, then it will be a problem and wear will start taking place. If the driving force is sufficient to maintain movement, if suppose the force that is acting to maintain the movement is much more than the resistance, then the interlocked particles are deformed. And if they are of a brittle nature, what will happen? They will be torn off, simply break off. Thus we can conclude that wear resistance can be improved by preventing metal to metal contact. So the very first thing which we can do is prevent metal to metal contact as much as possible. So how they can be done? Here there are certain points. By increasing the hardness to resist initial indentation. So we know hardness, it's the tendency to resist abrasion. So if hardness is increased, the initial abrasion may not take place or indentation may not take place. Then second, increasing the toughness to resist tearing out of metallic particles. So if the inner portion is tougher, then even if the force is higher, so it will resist it. It will not try to come out immediately. So inner portion should be tougher. Then by increasing the surface smoothness to eliminate the projections. Then the third one can be we eliminate the projections itself, which were causing the resistance to the motion. So for that we have to increase the surface smoothness. Abrasive wear occurs when hard particles slide or roll under pressure across a surface, or when a hard surface rubs across another surface. So if there are hard particles which are sliding against each other or rolling against each other under pressure, then this kind of abrasive wear can take place. The abrading particles from the harder object tend to scratch the softer material. So the harder one will try to remove the softer one, and these hard particles may also penetrate the softer metal and cause the tearing of metallic particles. So finally tear can take place. The ease with which the deformed metal may be torn off depends upon the toughness. We know that already. Therefore, hardness and toughness, both the properties, are very important, and they influence the adhesive wear and also determine the abrasive wear. So in both cases, adhesive and abrasive wear, both these properties are very important. But out of these two factors, hardness is actually more important than toughness, because in the initial phase itself, it will not try to deform the material. So what are the factors that are influencing wear? The very first one is the lubrication. We know lubrication is being done in all kinds of machinery. So lubrication is an important contributing factor to wear resistance, particularly in case of the adhesive type of wear. Not the abrasive, but the adhesive. In thick film lubrication, a sufficiently thick lubricating film completely eliminates metallic contact, and a metallic wear is reduced to negligible amount. However, this is just the ideal condition. So suppose there are two metallic surfaces and they are at a certain gap from each other, and in this gap the lubricant is there. So they will not come in contact, and then wear will be lesser. But this is ideal only because this thickness of the lubricant layer actually decreases with time. More often than not, boundary lubrication occurs, only boundary, meaning very thin layer. This is the condition of intermittent metallic contact that occurs when the oil film cannot be continuously maintained. So that's what I told you, that at certain times this film oil film may not be there, and then metal can come in contact. The amount of wear depends upon the speed, pressure, nature of the mating surfaces and viscosity of the residual oil film. However, there are numerous cases where lubrication is impractical or is not wanted, as in case of braking. So in case of braking, we don't want lubrication, because lubrication will then let the vehicle slide to a larger distance instead of stopping it in a lesser distance. Then we now see the heat effect. What will be the effect of heat? First one was the lubrication. Although actual melting of the metal occurs only in rare instances, the effect of heat produced by dry wear can reduce wear resistance in the following ways. The first one is it may temper hardened structures. Then it causes phase changes that increase the hardness and the brittleness, and it may decrease the mechanical properties. Further, it may accelerate the corrosion reactions. Then the friction factor, like in the case of the welding. When two clean surfaces of the same metal actually touch each other, they get welded together. Why? Because of the atomic attraction, which is caused by friction and sufficient pressure. So this is called the atomic type of welding. There is no electrical heating or gas heating. Any residual separating materials such as oil, dirt or absorbed moisture are removed, and the surfaces are in sufficient contact to have elastic or plastic deformation to occur, thus resulting in seizing or welding. So any kind of oil, dirt, etc., which are the impurities, are removed, and the surfaces can come together and form the welding joint or the seizing. The softening of metals by high temperature increases the ease of plastic deformation and facilitates welding. So if in this case high temperature is there, then the metal will be softened, and so it will facilitate welding. Seizing may cause complete stoppage, or if relative motion is not prevented, places or pieces of the opposite face may be pulled out. So seizing is different, it causes complete stoppage, and if the relative motion is still going on, then obviously some part will break out. The resultant projection then may cause scoring, galling and excessive local wear. So seizing prevention, how we have to prevent this phenomena of seizing. So these are the certain methods which I am giving to you to minimize the danger of seizing. First of all, use thin layers of hard surfacing material. Keep the layers thin. The use of at least one metal that forms some sort of lubricating film or thin, lightly adherent oxide, sulfide or phosphate coating. So that should be used. Aluminium oxide in this case is very effective because it forms a certain layer. For parts that operate under such high pressures that elastic deformation permits intimate contact, the best preventing method is a lubricant that combines with the metal surface to form a corrosion product of sufficient strength to keep the surfaces separated. So again a layer is formed here, and it can help us to keep the surfaces separate, thereby preventing the seizing phenomena. The use of materials of high elastic limit will also minimize seizure. Why? Because the intimate contact is avoided because of the plastic deformation. So plastic deformation is not there, so intimate contact will not happen. So that's why high elastic limit is better. Then there is the next factor which influences this is the impact factor. Impact is a factor in wear, since the suddenly applied load may cause plastic flow and thereby change the shape. Proper design should provide for higher compressive yield stress than the compressive stress produced by impact. So in designing itself, you have to take a higher compressive yield stress. The design must also provide sufficient support so that the subsurface flow does not occur. So we have to somehow prevent the flow, surface flow or the plastic flow. Otherwise there will be change in shape and wear will take place. So what is fatigue failure? Fatigue failure is necessarily included in discussion of wear, since it is a gradual deterioration due to use. Because it happens with time and due to the number of cycles of stress that are coming in, so that is the way it is very important in determining the wear. Fatigue cracks initiate on surface, as we have discussed earlier, in all cases except some very particular situations. Cracks initiate on surface because of the following reasons. The reasons are also mentioned here, which you have read in the previous fatigue session also. They are as follows. Surface is inherently weaker than inside material. We know that thing because these atoms and molecules are not being pulled together from all sides, only from the bottom side they are getting pulled. All shaping, forming and cutting processes are performed on the surface. So all kinds of processes that take place are also on the surface. That means this portion is the one which is getting exposed to any kind of deformation or damage. Then the third one, the surface is exposed to hostile atmosphere causing corrosion. Yes, all the chemicals and everything can cause damage to the surface. And then material is also handled from the surface. Some kind of stress concentration like notch, sharp edges, shoulders and fillets etc. are present on the surface itself to fulfill some design requirement. Almost all types of loads, whether axial, bending, torsion or combination of them, induce maximum stress on the surface. So all these are the factors which combined with wear will eventually result in failure. So fatigue combined with wear will result in speedy failure actually. So what is the solution then? We need to have a proper design to eliminate any kind of stress concentration due to the notches and sharp angles, thereby increasing our fatigue strength. Since fatigue failures are always due to tensile stress, residual compressive stress at the surface will provide additional protection. So generally fatigue failures are due to the tensile stress we have seen. So we can give a certain residual compressive stress on the surface before it is subjected to anything. And this compressive stress actually can be accomplished by case hardening phenomena such as like the carburizing and by short peening. So we will now discuss about the protection against wear. We have seen the wear and how fatigue also results in wear. Now we will see how we can protect against wear. Many materials and methods are actually available for protection against wear, and the selection of a particular material and process actually requires first of all a thorough analysis of the actual service conditions. First of all, we need to know where the work has to be done, what are the environmental and the service conditions. Then an understanding of the applicability and limitations of the particular material, what are its properties, how much load it can take, all these things we should know, and we should have the data about it, and the cost also we should know, in what does the cost involved. So surface protection techniques. To prevent wear, there are surface protection techniques which we'll see now, and some are listed here. I am just giving to you. The first one is electroplating, the second is anodizing, third is diffusion, fourth is metal spraying, the fifth one is hard facing, and finally the selective heat treatment. So all these are surface protection techniques to prevent wear, and we will discuss with you all of these. So the very first one is the electroplating one. What is that? The wear resistance of a metal part actually can be improved by electroplating. How? By electroplating a harder metal on the surface, thereby preventing abrasion. So the metals most often plated on base material are like chromium, nickel. So these actually increase the hardness, and rhodium also. And indium plating has also been used to reduce the wear of lead bearings. Chromium plating, this is the first one we will discuss. So we have got two types of chromium platings which are used in industry. The first one is known as the hard chromium one, and the second is the porous chromium. In the hard chromium plate is the same as that used for decorative purposes, but is much thicker, and its thickness is in the range of 0.0025 mm to 0.25 mm. So we see that the decorative purposes thing is used here also, but the thickness range varies. And then the second one is the porous chromium plating, and porous, it has on its surface carefully controlled pits or channels to hold the lubricants. So in this a little change is there. There are certain pits or channels that are made, and they are made to hold the lubricants, which will prevent the wear. So the hardness of this chromium plate, the porous chromium plating, is equivalent to 950 to 1050 BHN, that is Vickers hardness number. The high corrosion resistance of chromium actually is very helpful in reducing wear under corrosive conditions. So these two types of platings we discussed in case of electroplating. Then we have got the nickel based plating, and the hardness of the nickel plating is from 140 to 425 VHN, which is lesser than that of the chromium, and it depends upon the nickel plating solution used. Nickel plating is a good deal softer than chromium plating, but in many cases it is hard enough for the purpose and is more economical. So we have to see the economy also, the cost also. So where our purpose is met by nickel, we don't need to use chromium. The better throwing power of nickel plating. So one property is also better, the better throwing power of nickel plating solutions as compared with chromium plating solutions is an advantage in plating parts that have recesses. If there are small recesses or that parts that go and we want to throw this plating inside that, then nickel is better than chromium. Then we have the rhodium plating. So hardness of rhodium plating is from 540 to 640 VHN, and its wear resistance is between those of nickel and chromium. So you can see from the value itself, chromium was around 900 and nickel was around 200 to 400. So rhodium is in between. Rhodium plating has high reflectivity, high heat resistance and non-tarnishing properties along with good hardness and wear resistance. What are the applications of this rhodium plating then? They are used as reflectors because they have high reflectivity. Then for intensity light sources also, for electrical contacts and for slip rings and commutators because they have high heat resistance also. So in this session we started with the wear phenomena and what is its mechanism and how we can prevent it, and we have completed up till the surface protection techniques of electroplating. So we have done till electroplating, and further on we will see from anodizing in the next session. Thank you very much.